What is a scary, unsettling fact about you? I'll be dead in less than 3 years. I don't plan to be, but the odds are stacked against me. I think about that every single day. Cancer sucks. I'm convinced with no evidence that my father is still alive and that my whole family is lying to me. I logically know he is not, but every knock on the door I open half expecting my father could be something to work through, but it's not really affecting me day to day. My grandfather died and I thought I would feel the same way. Nope. He is dead and I miss him, but he is dead. I'm one of the lucky few with the CCR5 Delta 32 mutation. Why is that relevant? It makes me immune to HIV and a handful of other pathogens, most notably the bubonic plague. A user replied to me with a link to a laboratory that claims to do CCR5 mutation testing. Do not click that link, it leads to a suspicious webpage that claims it will test you for CCR5 and a host of other genetic mutations for $200. The supposed laboratory is not registered with Health Canada. I checked and they have no internet history beyond their own website. Also, the user who linked this site has a 9yo account with under 100 karma. If you want CCR5 testing, please seek the medical advice of your doctor and do not trust websites that claim they can test you for it. I have 2 lenses in my right eye, so it focuses like binoculars. My doctor wrote a paper about it. Mostly blinded as a baby in my left eye. Drive suspected my right lens split, then healed as to distinct lenses. Deader than 20/20 in my right eye. When I was born, I was so premature that my dad, who had quite dainty piano fingers, could slide his wedding ring up my arm to my shoulder. I weighed 2 pounds, born at 27 weeks. Less scary and more shocking, but when I was 9 years old I survived a home invasion where I was shot 6 times. They couldn't find my house, so I crawled with my left arm swinging the wrong way and my right leg limped from nerve damage, all the way to the front door when he broke in from the back of the house. I lived with only my mother, who unfortunately didn't survive. I vividly remember picking out the guy in a photo lineup while recovering in the ICU. I am very lucky to have kept my left arm. I have 13 pins and screws to make up for my shattered elbow. My left leg has permanent nerve damage and I now have drop foot. Despite my physical injuries and PTSD, I am doing very well. I have an enlarged aortic root. It's very unlikely, but it could spontaneously rupture, leading to the medical term adjusts glasses ... instantaneous death. I would pass out, bleed to death, and then fall over, dead before hitting the ground, and it could happen at any time. My wife is very uncomfortable thinking about it, lol. My immune system backfired and tried to murder me and almost succeeded. I now have to take multiple injections every single day, all day, or I'll die a painful death within a week. Just trying to write diabetes in the most badass way. Neck of my life. Whenever I talk about most of my childhood, I use words that leave room for mistakes and am generally using memories and ideas I've compiled from hearing other people say things about me. There is actually a large chunks of facts about myself that I only think I know and don't have personal confirmation of. Growing up, I had a recurring nightmare set in my grandparents' backyard looking at the back of their house. There was just something off about the house, something mildly sinister. I dreamt this over and over, many times over. The 2018, my dad, who now owned the house, went into the backyard to that spot and killed himself. I haven't had the backyard dream since. I pooped in my neighbor's backyard when I was 8 years old. Just gargled under his jungle gym and let loose. This is the first I've talked about it in over 20 years. Slept in my mom's bed until I was 12 years old. Everyone believed I was just a mama's beau, including myself. It was actually because I shared a bedroom with my brother who molested me. I start therapy soon. This thread is wild. One post will be I white back to front, and the next one will be a long serious story about someone getting brutally harassed and assaulted for years. When I was 18 years old, I was incarcerated for 3 years, found not guilty, and acquitted on all charges. I had roughly 12 charges, some of which would have led to life in prison had I been found guilty. But I knew I was innocent and decided to fight my case. My best friend at the time was found guilty and given 3 life sentences. At one point, 2 years in, the DA offered me 7 years and 2 felony strikes as a deal, or I could roll on my best friend and go home that same day. I passed and had to continue to fight my case, as I knew they didn't have any solid evidence against me. As my parents ran out of money for an attorney, I was eventually appointed a state-appointed attorney who fought for me tooth and nail. He kicked ass and listened to everything I presented to him about why I wasn't guilty. Mind you, I was 18 and I was surrounded by grown men and saw some horrific shit. I kept in contact with my attorney afterward and informed him that I was still doing well out here. He died a couple of years ago. Now, don't get me wrong, I was no saint. I was in a gang and running the streets and up to no good, but I wasn't guilty of these charges. A part of me felt that maybe it was the universe's way of slowing me down and helping me get my shit together. Took a short while, but I've been on the right track. This February will be 20 years since I've been released. I have unusually good night vision. Extra cones rods I forget, which is for low light, which means I walk around in what other people consider complete darkness, able to see just fine. Add on to that I'm 6 feet 10 and very large, basically a cryptid. I inherited a lot of money from my grandmother about 2 years ago that no one in my family knew existed. I still don't know where it came from. Her lawyer wouldn't tell me, but it's in the upper 7. Father, her son, got the flat she owned and we all thought that was everything she had. Apparently it wasn't, but I haven't told anyone about it and I don't plan on doing so either. I just work a normal 8-5 desk job. Rent a flat downtown of the city I live in, nothing expensive, and live a normal life on my own. No partner or children. No expensive vacations. I don't even have a car, lol. I just don't feel comfortable sharing this secret, and the longer I keep it, the stranger it would get telling it. TLDR, I'm a millionaire because my grandmother died, and no one knows about it. Edit, I'm trying to answer to as many people as possible, but as I said, I still have a normal job, so here are the answers to the most asked questions. Suggestions. 1. What do you want to do with the money? I don't know yet. For now it's safe where it is and I will either use it or invest it once I think it's time. Maybe in a week, maybe never. 2. Can you give me X amount of? It wouldn't be fair to give it to one person and deny another. I also don't really care about your tragic stories in my DMs. I read them and just get depressed, so please don't. 3. Can I be in your life? No, I also don't want to adopt you, get to know you, or be in a relationship with you except for big titty goth GFs. 4. You have to invest in Bitcoin, real estate, stocks, your friendly neighborhood pyramid scheme. No, fuck off. I know most of you are genuine, nice people, but I don't want your advice. If this makes me sound like a douche, I'm fine with that. It's just a lot right for coming to my TED Talk. I don't know if scary, unsettling quite fits here, but if I met you 3 years ago and then haven't seen you since then, I will remember your name and several random things you told me. I've had to learn to play dumb and act like I don't remember certain things, because it creeps people to fuck out and gives off a stalkery vibe. Though it is useful when I want to screw with someone. My best friend tried to kill me when I was 13, and I had to fight and disarm a classmate menacing the class with an industrial nail gun when I was 17. My friends have a running joke that my teenage years were cursed. When I was 11, I witnessed my stepdad attack my mom. I was in my room and heard my mom yell, scream, so I left my room to see what happened. When I stepped into the hallway, I could see partly into the kitchen, and she was standing with her back up against the corner of the countertop with a terrible look on her face and a swelling cheek. My stepdad was about 5 feet away with 3 long bleeding scratches down his cheek from where she retaliated. I guess I didn't know how to react, so I just turned around and went back to my room. That weekend I spent Friday night at my best friend's house. I knew his older brother had a .38 Chief Special revolver in a hidden drawer he had built under his waterbed frame. Before I left, I stuffed the gun into my rolled-up sleeping bag. I chickened out that first night Saturday, but Sunday night, around 3 AM I think, I took the revolver into their room and woke him up by jamming it under his chin. He woke up immediately and kind of reactively had pulled his head back away from the barrel. I pushed it harder into his throat and said something like, "Don't ever hurt my mom again or I'll kill you." I don't remember exactly what I said. I do remember feeling like the world was spinning 1,000 miles per hour around me and that I was weightless. I don't remember anything after saying that to him until I was back in my room. I dropped the gun on the floor and burst into the hardest sobbing I had ever experienced. Seemed like it lasted for hours. I don't know how long I actually cried, but when I actually stopped, I was drenched in sweat, tears down my entire front side. I put the gun in my backpack and snuck it back into that drawer under the waterbed 2 or 3 days later. The next time I was at my friend's house, not a word was ever said about what I did by me or my stepdad, but as far as I know, he never touched my mom again. They divorced 3 or 4 years later. I ran into my friend's brother at a bar about 10 years later and I told him about borrowing his gun thinking he would just laugh it off as me telling drunk bar lies. He did not. He believed me completely. Even stated that sometimes, when I was at their house I would make little comments that his family understood to mean that my home life wasn't great. He's a big biker type guy. And he just grabbed me, pulling me off the bar stool, and hugged me for like 5 straight minutes. He was a great dude. This all sounds over dramatic after reading it back to myself, but it's written exactly as I remember it. Thanks for the chance to share this. Until now, my friend's brother and my stepdad were the only others who knew about it. I've considered suicide far more than my wife knows. Was once a serious option in my life when things got hard and I felt trapped. Sometimes it's just a casual thought. I'm also a very light fun person in social situations, always trying to make people laugh. But I'm actually really depressed and can't stand myself a lot of the time. Edit 3. Thank you all for you kind words of encouragement. I hope we can all make it through whatever dark times we may find ourselves in. Edit 2. I have been to therapy and have been on meds in the past. In between therapists right now due to an insurance change. And it's challenging to find another therapist as helpful as my first one. Edit added more info. Since I was very young, age 9 or 10 I think, I've had thoughts that I was going to die young. The older I got, the age 24 just kept reoccurring. I'll be 24 in a few months. I have appointments for neurologists for a suspected brain tumor coming up. Nothing is certain or set, but this all feels very weird. Very long-term friendships because people don't understand that it's not them, it's me, and that I really mean no harm or have any ill feelings towards them. I just kinda want to recede into my own mind. I feel really bad about it and keep telling myself to reach out, but I don't. I had my appendix removed and part of me is in Canada right now and another part of me is in S. About all I got. My dog and my mother died in the same year. I was so devastated when my dog passed. That kind of pain didn't even touch the pain of losing my mom, partially because she had given up on me and life years before she died. She drank herself to death and got sepsis. My dad killed himself in 2002. I'm 38 now. I miss them. I miss my dog more. She was always there for me, through so much illness and loneliness and pain. She was my best friend. I thought my comment might be a little relatable, but I had no idea. I'm so sorry for all of your losses and thank you for sharing your stories. I also got 2 dogs after she passed a few years ago, so I'm all taken care of. They are 2 of the goofiest little dudes with 1 in a million personalities just like their sister. A third of my body is covered in burn. I was 15. I was in a forest area near my school with several friends. We would go here often after school to talk and hang out before going home for supper. It was also common for us on colder days to start a small fire to keep warm. Netherlands is a very wet country, so there is rarely a fear of a fire getting out of hand. However, the bows are another story. Bows always act dumb around fire. One time when we were in the woods, a boy who had been playing with the fire had lit a stick and was walking around with it like a torch. Somehow the stick or ember fell onto my school bag, hung over one shoulder and caught fire. This also caught my jacket and hair and skirt on fire, as well as the backpack began to melt from the fire and drip onto my panicked, and by instinct I ran back to the school. Running only made the fire worse. I was seen by an adult, a teacher I think, and I was put on the ground and the fire was put out. But much damage had been done already. I was taken towards the hospital and the school called my parents. I was burned from the top of my head down onto the top of my leg just above my knee. Of my head was burned away, but because hair burns quickly, there was little damage to my face, more like a bad sunburn, except for on my neck and along my jawbone where my jacket and backpack burned. My legs were mostly okay too, as the skirt I was wearing was wool and did not burn easily and was away from my right arm and body were not as well off. Where the jacket was and where the backpack was had burned the most and had melted like hot plastic because they were synthetic material. I was in hospital for many weeks and had many surgeries over the span of my life to help the skin grow and to graft skin from my legs onto parts of my chest and underarm that were the most damaged. If I wear jeans and a long sleeve shirt, you cannot tell that I had any scars other than the line of scars that go up my neck on one side. Many times I can hide those scars with makeup. I went to a GP in agonizing pain. I vomited around 20-30 times consecutively on their restroom floor. I was told it was a UTI. recovered a little. Next day was in more pain, and after seeing a couple doctors, I was rushed to hospital for emergency operation on a testicular torsion. I ended up losing one testicle. Spent the night there before returning. Day later I met the love of my life and never looked back since. But that 2 days of pain was something nobody should have to go through. I put my dad out of his misery when he was on his deathbed. I overdosed him with his painkillers and he died an hour later. I was emotionally abused by my dad. He died of cancer around 6 years ago, and I felt nothing. I felt bad that he was in so much pain. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. I just remember waking up the day after he died and feeling so oddly at peace when there was no one yelling at me in my doorway. I truly believe his death helped me recover from my eating disorder, and I became so much less suicidal and reclusive after that. A random guy in a bar bit part of my ear off. Here is my ear. For all the curious people, I talk with the usual you can do it type of act like I am to people that are having a conversation. I called him G. He is okay. Got poisoning at age 3 and was about to die. Slept for 3 whole ass days after 8 days of bleeding in and out and operations and such. Fact ain't really scary or nothing, but I can never get poisoning again. I'm immune. Edit forgot to say, there's also a news article about me, but I probably won't be sharing because of info people on the internet shouldn't have access to. From ages 6 to 14, I spent all of my time in a pitch black, cold and locked basement, only leaving for school and never letting anyone outside the family know. I'm heavily addicted to opioids and had been for nearly a decade. Absolutely nobody in my life knows. When I go without them and have withdrawals, I think about ending it all. I don't even do them for the high. I have legitimate pain and they help massively. The high isn't even much, just makes me feel happier with not being in pain. I sometimes smile and laugh at tragic news events, especially if I see someone else crying and or is the bearer of bad news. I hate it. However, I think I understand why it happens. It's some sort of trauma defense mechanism because someone is expecting me to feel saddened and to frown. Not really scary or unsettling, but I do end up having to explain without trying getting into details to people why. I refuse to drink from any kind of retail item that is not example, soda beer cans, Milko J cartons, etc. People's curiosity compels them to ask me why when I tell them to let it be, and assuredly enough they never like the answer. I had dead mouse parts slide down my throat chugging a beer on a golf course. I honestly barely know myself. Someone asks me about what I do, what I like, etc., and I legitimately have no idea. I'm slowly leaving society and don't plan to tell anyone. I purchased a small piece of property, one small cabin in which I'll live and a second that has been remodeled for use as a rental to subsidize my income. I have 2 years of work left and have no intention of telling them either. My parents are both dead and my brother has been estranged for 2 decades. When I hit my monetary goal in a couple years, I'm just not showing up for life anymore. I've deleted all socials aside from Reddit as I use it for news and information to stay current until I leave the grid. My phone will also be left behind. I plan to take a laptop to communicate with the rental agency and any issues with renters that may arise, as I plan to act as the caretaker of said rental. TL Doctor, I'm walking away from it all. Work, friends, any and all obligations. The world tires me and I see no point in continuing to be part of it on any real scale. And telling no one. I was 1 pound 11 ounces when I was born 4 months early. And somehow I'm a fully functioning adult and survived school. I have seen some gnarly shit in my life. Aftermath of car accidents, BB'd, IED, what your face looks like after you accidentally bite down on a blasting cap, etc. Pretty much any way a body can be mutilated, I've seen it firsthand or had to sit through briefings on it. I've had to hold people's heads still after they fell off a trailer while they bleed brain juice onto me just to make sure their neck doesn't move. Laying Magic the Gathering. And you would never know that sometimes, when I look at people, I have involuntary, sometimes terrifying, and intrusive thoughts imagining that they look like walking corpses. I also like pineapple on pizza. Edit. So the blasting cap story is hard to pin down. Some sources say it was a man in West Virginia that did it on a dare because his buddies were trying to blow up a fish tank, especially those that go through medic school, CLS, and other additional schoolhouse training. It was a Marine biting down on a blasting cap either in a demonstration or because they were being stupid. While I'd never personally seen that particular event in real life, the images we were shown of that gentleman being treated were grotesque. I can confirm that a man getting shot in the genitals with a 40mm lines rubberized pellet round will make their bits look like a crushed tomato. My boyfriend would drug me and pimp me out to other dudes. I don't have any memory of it, just random flashes in dreams. And the few messages I've gotten on dating apps from guys who know stuff about me I've never seen or met before and have had sex with. I'm a very friendly, nice, happy person trapped in the body of a dull, slow person. I have bipolar 2, depression, anxiety, and fibromyalgia. I have had so many different medications over the course of my life that it has literally ruined my brain. Most of my life I have been very friendly and made friends easily enough. Over the last 10 years, have been trying to get my various ailments under control using tons of different mediations and mental health treatments. Now I struggle greatly to show any emotion other than a stoic demeanor. I don't laugh often, usually only when I am stoned. I will just call things out as funny and remain straight-faced. My memory and cognitive function are compromised. It's a fucking nightmare to be a completely different person in your head. This is a weird one, but I promise you, no bullshit, I had a metal screw bolt roughly 1.5 inches long stuck in my right lung from age to 17. I must have put it in my mouth as a toddler and it got there somehow. The unsettling bit is that I always knew there was something seriously wrong with my body, because my whole life I would have instances in which I coughed uncontrollably, many times coughing up blood, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot, but I never told anyone. Dad was neglectful and Mom was always working, so it was relatively easy to hide. If it happened at school, I'd excuse myself to the restroom until it stopped. No one ever showed concern those 15 years, so I guess I kept it to myself well enough. I never told anyone, because even as a small child I was very unhappy with life and wanted it to be over. I guess I figured my mystery illness would get me eventually, so I kept it a secret so I wouldn't get treated. It all came to a head at 17 when playing ball at the park with my parents, siblings, and some friends. I got a decent hit and ran around the bases. I started coughing. After sitting back down, I tried to hold it in, but I couldn't. And this time it was too bloody to hide and no bathroom to go to. So my step-uncle noticed after a minute or two, everyone is crowded around me while I'm coughing up a shitload of blood in and around a trash can. My little brother told me after that they actually sent guys in hazmat suits to clean it up because they didn't know if whatever was wrong with me was contagious. But anyway, got to the hospital, got the x-ray, which showed the screw lit up like Christmas imposed over my rib cage. Dr. Guy just went, "Well, there's your problem." I guess he was trying to lighten the mood since everyone was understandably freaking the fuck out. 2 weeks of surgery, 3 total, and it was out. I still have breathing issues, but the cough is gone now. I made the screw into a necklace, which I wear sometimes because I find it oddly comforting to be reminded of my own mortality. I know that's weird, but it's just sort of how I am, all things considered. I never told my family I knew there was something wrong with me, because telling them would mean admitting to them that I wanted to die the whole time. I still struggle with mental health crap for this and many other reasons I won't get into, but things are a lot easier than they used to be. But anyway, if you actually took the time to read about my weird little life, I appreciate your time and hope your day fixed some typos. Thank you all for your kind words. A few asked for a picture, so here you are. Yes, it was that shiny when it came out too. Stainless steel is properly named apparently. Edit to hey, thanks for the awards. They are Nieto. I have to go to bed for a bit before work, but if you all continue asking questions, I'll try to get to them later. Take care of yourselves, and give someone you care about a hug from me. Edit 3. It's okay if some of you don't believe me. I have no reason to lie to you, but I get how unbelievable my story is. I will think about sharing a photo of the shoulder scar, but I'm not promising anything. Would have to be shirtless for thousands of people and I don't want to do that. My voice sounds disturbingly like Andrew Tate's. It's been grossing me out lately. It's that weird mix of British and American where it sounds like I'm faking both. British dad, American mom in my case. I'm a woman. I used to be a prison officer. One morning my partner went to wake up a prisoner early morning, so they had time to make their court appearance later in the day. Meanwhile, I stayed in the control room overlooking the wing. She opens his cell door and discovered he was hanging by his shoelace. We called it in. She cut him down and started CPR despite seeing the blood in his eyes and his throat all swollen up. he was dead. Training and procedure state it doesn't matter, we have to do what we can. I ran on full speed to assist and she was losing it, he is fucking dead. What do we do? I told her to stop so she can have a minute and I took over. I started chest compressions and felt the rib snap and break. I gave him mouth-to-mouth and continued CPR. After 6 minutes or so, other officers arrived on the scene and took over CPR over a few minutes. Feels like half an hour. Everyone was talking about we can have the rest of the week to recover and asking if we were okay. I felt fine. I told people this and the response was it hasn't hit you yet. Few hours go by. The officer I was with was in tears. I still felt okay. Next few days go by and the officer I was with took a few days off. I was fine. She tells me how she wakes up in the middle of the night and while half asleep, sees her dressing gown hung up and in her half-sleepy state thinks it's a hanging body. She sits up screaming, "I am fine." Weeks go by and I still have no feeling toward the matter. Now's it's been 3 years and I still couldn't give the slightest crap about the whole matter. Turns out, death really doesn't faze me in the slightest. The only thing that stuck with me is the feeling and sound of his bones cracking and snapping. I felt the vibrations up my arms for days afterwards. Death doesn't bother me, but bones cracking as I try to bring him back do. Pretty sure that isn't normal. I killed someone in self-defense, went through the entire court process with his family sobbing hysterically and never felt a single emotion about it, and I'm a pretty emotional guy. I've handled more human remains than any serial killer, and no, I'm not the most efficient serial killer in history. I'm just a transport tech in a morgue for a large medical center. I can open metal caps glass bottles with my belly button. Beer bottles, not me at all, but lol. I'm suicidal and want to live at the same time. There's so many instances in a day where I feel like I should have jumped in front of the train in the morning, or I feel like I want to live long. Schrodinger's suicide basically. I can walk in a backbend. It looks demonic. I can do it cause I have EDS and my connective tissue is basically shredded chicken. And I can pop joints out of socket with little pain. I had to film a very terrible and compiled to Unironic gangster rap music video for my cousin and his school friends. I constantly think about leaving my current life behind and just living alone somewhere remote where no one knows I exist. Odd thing is, I have a really good happy life and I'd never do it, but I think about it constantly. I can turn my emotions off to any situation if I choose to and basically be in a state of blankness. Doesn't matter how sad or bad it is. Therapist said, it's a defense mechanism from a messed up childhood. My grandfather was murdered on the res by a skinhead dude who serial murdered native people and dropped them in the wilderness. It took them years to catch him. I was at his execution in another state. He deserved worse than falling asleep peacefully. I was a child mule in Detroit for 3 years. I made more money in 3 years than most people will see in a decade. I did some pretty scary stuff that I won't get into here that was under coercion. I'm not proud of it. It's scary what I've seen dudes do over money. I bought my mom a house because her husband was on oxys and gambled her life savings. Made sure my brother and sisters ate. Cash in my mom's glove box every week with a spare key. No questions, no answers. I did when stuff got real pressure and scary for me to be promoted. I killed a man outside a bar in the defense of another person. The whole bar saw him drag his girlfriend out by the arm, and no one called police or followed. I was just there for dinner and not drinking. I had a legal piece in the car. I holstered up and went looking, heard screaming from behind the gated dumpster. She was begging. His pants were down. I yelled at him to freeze. I yelled at him to lay down. He pulled his pants up and he had a knife in his hand. The girl was bleeding. He charged me and I emptied a mag into him as soon as he wasn't in front of her. Broke my pistol down, put it on the pavement, and called for the cops and an ambulance. Got arrested, but she testified, and he was on camera charging me with a big fucking boot knife. I didn't get charged because she was stabbed, bleeding, being assaulted, and he charged me with a deadly weapon. I still think about it sometimes. I don't regret it. That was about 10 years ago. My wife and I got married 9 years ago. I've never told her. As far as she knows, I have a close female friend that lives in Alabama. It's not something that comes up in casual conversation. A BTW new girlfriend. I killed a dude. Nah lol. I don't think it was necessary to talk about. I went to therapy and stayed. Girl emails me every once in a while. She's healed, married, and happy. I visited her in the hospital for a while till her parents got here from Alabama. I went to her wedding a couple years ago. It was beautiful, nice do. I don't bother her. Her parents tried to give me some money, but I felt really fucking greasy about taking it, so I didn't. Kinda wish I had lately, haha, but still glad I didn't. No one knows I'm on Reddit, or I genuinely wouldn't say any of this here. I said it in some random group chats during therapy to get it out and haven't really mentioned it until now, honestly. Thanks for asking the right question, I guess. I appreciate the platform, lol. I just really don't care about people. I have a few friends I like to spend time with, but I wouldn't feel anything if these friendships wouldn't last. When anybody I know tries to manipulate me or be toxic in any way, I can just cut them off. I wouldn't exist if a WW2 pilot wasn't shot down and killed. He was married to my grandmother, and she wouldn't have ever met my grandfather. My grandfather was in the Navy and his ship was sunk, and most on the ship one had to die. One had to manage to live, then meet my grandma. Can a sharp decline in the last year. And my friends and family don't know about everything I'm trying to deal with. I just crack jokes about it or manically word vomit some things, but not everything. Here's some word vomit for anyone who cares to read. TW bad mental health. I think I have PTSD. I get flashes of the worst night of my life, and that happened November 2021. I can't touch soft sweaters without damn near having a panic attack. I'm getting intrusive thoughts that tell me I'm bad, worthless, unloved, unworthy of being loved, and all other mean things. I constantly maintain a very high level of anxiety. I overthink everything to the point that I can't focus on anything else sometimes. I have no motivation to clean, exercise, cook, or do anything else I used to enjoy. I didn't enjoy moments when I feel happy because I feel guilty when I'm happy. I just want to sleep, but I can't for very long because of my anxiety. My Wellbutrin and propranolol don't work anymore. Not very well anyway. I can't just walk away and keep walking until I die of hunger or exhaustion because my husband would be sad. And I don't want my last action on earth to be another bad one. I cry a lot. I couldn't maintain eye contact with my husband last night because every time I looked at him, I wanted to burst into tears. He hugged me, and I almost burst into tears. I stopped cuddling because I was about to burst into tears. I started keeping a mental health journal, and I have so many more bad days than good. Even the good days are marred by bad stuff. I just lie in bed all day instead of being busy and productive like I use for the wall of text. I'm just very tired and wanted to holler my problems into the internet void. My family moved overseas, a move I did not want to make. We went for a walk with new friends. We stopped on a bridge. My mother kept talking about how happy she was that we'd gotten the embassy posting. I stood next to her, looking down at the water, thinking how quickly I could simply jump off the bridge and end it all. I was 11 years old and pretty messed up and unable to express myself about it. I'm much better now. Therapy is awesome. People will just come up to me, unprompted, and tell me about the dark aspects of their last date groped them. How their parent is dying and they are tired of putting on a brave face. How they got into a loveless marriage because it was economically convenient at the time, and now, 2 kids in, they can't possibly leave. That they really want to have an affair because they never dated before their current marriage. That they are homeless and literally sleeping in their car outside work at night, but don't tell can be at work, a coffee shop, at the mechanic, etc. I just do the usual, hey, how's I going, or what's going on, or you good. Despite me being in a good situation, I could, right now, pack up all my shit and fuck off and be completely okay with not seeing my partner, family, or friends ever again and just start over. Probably a useful skill hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. Not so useful now. My dad died completely unexpectedly at 48 on my birthday. I'd kiff that's entirely above me. But a strange factoid regarding my life, it's pretty unsettling to think that you could lose anyone at any time. I'm intersex, and my bone structure is fully compromised cause of deformities and a lot of surgeries that I'll probably be never able to afford. Will live life like a ghost inside a shell. Diabetes and high blood pressure and cholesterol that I've had since I was 21 means that I'll probably die an early death. Might not be scary and unsettling to you, but it bums the shit out of me. Edit. Thanks for the kind words, everyone. I spent some time on my health, and went from being 230 pounds and on injectable insulin in my late 20s to being 180 pounds and a regular jogger on only some oral meds in my early 30s. I'm now 42 and I've backslid 195 pounds and not jogging. I'm still on only oral meds, no insulin, but my blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar are all creeping up and less poorly controlled. I don't think I'm going to die tomorrow, but I'm still worried about having a lower standard of living in 20-30 years. So it's time to put on my big boy pants and get back to work on myself. Not really scary, but more unsettling for me. I hooked up with a girl years ago who was cheating on her man. She got pregnant, and I'm not allowed to have any contact with the kid even though the other guy isn't in the picture anymore. I just feel bad for the kid more than anything. I'm the toxic one. This is one of the rarest occasions I'll accept it and say it out loud. Good question, but I never want to admit that again. My sister 6-yo and I 11-yo almost got raped and murdered by a serial killer back in my home country. The serial killer was impersonating one of my dad's friends who was supposed to arrive at our house while we were alone and my dad hadn't gotten there. But for some reason, my gut feeling told me not to let him in. My dad wasn't answering the phone, so I told my sister to call the neighbors while I entertained him and gave him a glass of water. Our house had 2 doors, one wood and one metal, so I could see him without him being able to come in. Eventually he fled, and my father and his friend arrived later. My father only told the private guard that the community had. And that's how they captured the serial killer. They beat the guard until he said call. Almost all technological devices operate better in my presence, to the point it's noticeably too well. I'm the epitome of it never breaks around the tech guy. Surprising numbers of devices that I regularly use simply do not function when others try to use them who do not have this trait. When I was a kid, I used to spy 24/7 on my neighborhood. I even found out one of them was cheating on his wife, and the wife was also cheating. Turned out both of them had 2 kids, but no one in common. I found a phone in a Target once, took a picture of my AskReddit, then turned it into lost and found. When I was around 15, a guy in our friend group tried to sexually assault one of the girls. While the others, boys and girls, didn't react, besides laughing and encouraging, I took the back of his shirt in my hands and slammed him on the ground. Then, I sat on his chest and started strangling him. I didn't feel anything apart from a primal rage, and I didn't stop, even when he started crying and his eyes rolled over. At this point, I don't think I would have stopped before he died. But someone started pulling me back by my shoulders and I kind of regained consciousness what I was doing. I stood back and looked at him trying to breathe. He said I was crazy. I didn't say anything and just walked away with the girl in tears. We never spoke again, didn't tell anybody. And this is the first time I have ever tell someone. When I was about 10 years old, I threw a wooden ball at my brother's head while we were fighting. He was walking by our stairs at the time and fell down, hit his head on the tile and was knocked unconscious. There was a blood splatter under his head. I backed up into the other room and returned to watching TV, pretended like I hadn't seen anything. My mom heard the thud and found him. I only went to see what was up after I knew I wouldn't be the first down those stairs. He was totally fine. The splatter looked like way more blood than it was and he had barely a scratch on him. He didn't remember how he fell. I really thought I had killed him, and my first thought was how I could get out of any consequences. Not sure what that says about my character. I work in customer service and I have a fairly high-ranking position. I absolutely fucking hate people. Putting on a smile and using my customer service voice is absolutely exhausting, and I'd rather sit in a cubicle all day alone. I have type 1 bipolar with psychotic symptoms. During manic episodes, I have been known to have delusions of grandeur and paranoia. During one such episode, I attacked a friend with a butter knife I sharpened while making weapons in my garage so I could be a vigilante. On another occasion, a friend and I were out at 2 a.m. and ended up in a quarrel with them over the knife. She grabbed the blade and I pulled it across her hand, cutting her finger to the bone. She has never regained feeling in that finger. I have a cat sleeping on my lap. He thinks he is being cute, but I know his true intentions. I know that he is secretly afraid that I'm going to miss his dinner time. He's a good cat and follows a food schedule. My cat is the only thing keeping me from laughing myself. I have a husband and kids, and they should be the reason I stay alive. The thing is, my family has people to take care of them if I go, but my cat only likes me. He waits every night by the door for me to come home. and every time I'm in a dark place and thinking of just ending it, I think about how this damn cat would just wait and wait for me until he died. Kind of like that Futurama episode with Fry's typo fix. I probably dislodged the blood clot in my mom's leg that went to her lungs and killed her. It was part of an effort by both my dad and I to improve her quality of life. She had myotonic dystrophy and was bedbound. Not enough muscle mass to carry her own weight, which wasn't terribly high, just muscles waist away. Didn't want showers, hair washed, or see doctors, and for far too long we let her do whatever she wanted. We started cleaning her up and getting her to do some exercises and eat better. I gave her a sponge bath weekly as part of negotiations with her, and one day she just started looking bad. Malaise, change in pallor, drooling, not able to speak clearly. She wasn't ready to see a doctor yet, then suddenly die. Autopsy indicated pulmonary embolism. I have unsettlingly little. My grandpa died. We were at his hospital bed seconds after he died. I felt nothing. Not even at the funeral. I heard of a childhood friend having had cancer. Didn't care at all. Had a former school teacher die few months ago. No emotion. When our beloved family dog died, I was sad, but it went away within a day or two, though it still stings every time I think of him. He was nearly 17 years with us. When my other grandpa died, absolutely no emotion. Again, not even at the funeral. There is essentially no sad emotion, and I don't know why, and I hate it actually, but anger. That is the one emotion I have too much. I get angry easily and can easily go towards violence if I don't control myself. Without control, I'd probably be beating people into the ICU. It's not great, but this I at least got under. I feel like a machine, just soldiering on through every day.